In this box, we have the brand new Rane One MK2. I heard there's a ton of new features in this thing, so we're gonna pop it open and see what's inside. All right, we got it popped open. Of course, we got our styrofoam and a bunch of other things as well. So we got the platters and we got the discs, and I'm sure the slip mats are inside this as well in both of these boxes. And in the center, we got our power cable, and then we have our USB cable. Also some instructions as well. And now to the good stuff. Let's see if I can get this out. Let's get this box out of the way. Oh, it's not too heavy. And there is our controller. Of course, we're missing a couple pieces here. And boom. First impressions on this controller. Obviously, it's a white controller. I'm not sure if it comes in a black model, but the white looks really good in my opinion. And yeah, the platters are technically still crooked, just like the first model, but that didn't really bother me in the first place on the first model. I don't really care still, especially because they utilize all that empty space on the sides here for all your different buttons and effects, and we'll go over those in a few. So our connections for the controller, we obviously got our power. Looks like we got an external fan over here as well. Bunch of blank space over here, and then we have a bunch of connections as well. Starting over here, we have our microphone inputs, and notice both of them are dual XLR and 1/4 inch connections, which is super cool. A lot of controllers have like one XLR and one 1/4 inch, and that's it. This one you can pick and choose what you want, which is super cool. Next to it, we have an aux in, so if you want to play music on like an iPad or something like that, you can do that. And over here, we have two RCA inputs, where you can bring in music for your channel 1, channel 2 in case you want to do that as well. We have our main audio out, which is XLR as well as RCA. And then we have our two XLR booth monitor outputs. And lastly, you got two USB connections too. And in the front, we have our controls for our mic 1 and our mic 2, and this one's also an aux as well. So this controls your mic 2 and your aux. And you also have some EQ control with your highs and lows, but nothing too crazy over here. We got our sampler control here, really just a volume knob for your sampler. Next to that, you have your deck contour and your crossfader contour. And then you got your Q mix for your headphones, as well as your Q level as well. One of the first things I noticed when I pulled this out of the box is that there are so many buttons. There's buttons at the top, there's buttons at the side, there's a bunch of extra buttons at the bottom and in the middle. And my first thought was, this is too much stuff to deal with. But after messing around with it a little bit, I kind of have a grasp of how things work, and it looks a little more complicated than it actually is. So let's take a look at some of the new features on the Rane One MK2. Starting up here at the top, we got a bunch of extra buttons, and these are basically a smaller version of your standard pads over here. So right now I have them set to the hotkey mode, but you can switch it over to your scratch bank, you can click over to your sampler, and then you can even adjust your stems over here as well. Basically, everything you could do over here, you could do over here in mini form, which is kind of cool. You can have your main pads over here, you can have this one set to your sampler, and you can adjust your stems over here. You have dedicated stems buttons, so with one click you can go straight into acapella or instrumental. So what I'm picturing is if you like to mess around with a bunch of different sound effects, do samples at the same time, do stems at the same time, you can have your sampler here, your cue points here, and your stems all right in front of you. So it makes it so much easier. You don't have to click through menus, hold shift and change things, which makes it super cool. So let me show you one of their new stem features on here called Stem Roll. And basically how you get to it is you got your standard roll over here, but if you double click it, it brings us over to our stem roll. So these buttons at the top are your standard stem buttons. So let's say I want to select just the acapella of this song. So there's our song. I just want to grab the acapella and I want to roll the acapella. So let's play the song. So basically it lets you roll just a specific stem of the song. So if you really like the drums, for example, and these parameter buttons over here make it to where you don't have to hold it if you don't want to. So I'll click this. Let's grab the acapella again. And it just goes forever, even if the song's not playing. Now, aside from our stem roll over here, we also have stem effects. So you got your standard stems. Let's play our song again. Let's take the acapella out. And then you got your standard stuff that you're used to. But if we double click the stems button, we can add effects to different parts of our stems. So just the drums or just the melody, just the bass, whatever you want. So I'm gonna add an effect to our acapella right over here. And these are our standard buttons again for the stems. And these buttons down here represent our echo, our roll, our breaker, and our delay. So we can add all of those effects to each part of our stems. And again, we can do that with just the drums too. So lots of different effects that you can do with stems, get a little creative and make it fun. So now, like I said before, we have our dedicated stem buttons over here. You got your acapella and instrumental, but you can make it to where it does those stem effects by holding shift, acapella, and now it automatically does the effect for you. But if you're like me and you hate holding shift for things, you can actually change the setting to where every time you click it, it does the stem effect. So what you do is you go over here to your menu, you're gonna hold shift, click menu, and the first setting is our acapella instrumental effects. We're gonna click into it. It says shift right now, but I'm just gonna switch it over to primary, and with that, that'll make it to where our stem effects are automatically applied every time we hit the dedicated stem button. Too many noises, clash the choices, future came and left like just makes it a lot easier that way, in my opinion. That's how I would set it. Now, if you like to fine tune your stems a little more than that, you can actually turn these knobs over here into your stem effects. All you gotta do is hold shift, hit your Q button, and that turns these into your stem effects as well. So we'll play our song again, and if I wanna bring the vocal down, that's it. If I wanna bring the vocal up, you can crank it. Same thing for your drums, your melody, your vocal, that's basically off. Or I can crank all of them if I like to redline. That might not be the way that I like to use stems, but for someone who wants to fine tune a little more, that's a cool feature to have, so. Now, when it comes to our knobs over here, you can also make adjustments to your channel effects over here. So if these lights are not on, it doesn't do anything, right? I can click it and now it's set to filter. And if I want to change it to something else like noise or flanger, we got our noise here. All you got to do is hold shift, change it. Now it's flanger. And back to filter. You just got to make sure the light is on if you want to have any effects to your sound. Now in the center here, we also have our other effects. You got echo, recycler, all the other ones, but you can actually change what every single one of those is. So if you hold echo and then you kind of turn the knob, you can change the echo button to whatever you want it to be. So let's say you don't really care for the matrix effect. You can set that to reverb. And now I know this is the reverb button. And the more I mess with this controller, the more I realize if the Rane One and the Rane Performer had a baby, it'd be the Rane One MK2. There's so many elements that are from both of those controllers put together in one. Like you have the same form factor as the Rane One, but you also have the new faders from the Rane Performer. You have the effects module from the Rane Performer. So many things that are just put together in one. So if you like the Rane One, you like the Rane Performer, this might be a good controller for you. Now, my final thoughts on this controller, I think it's a really cool controller for you to utilize all of your effects at the same time. You can set your sampler, you can have your stem buttons over here, you can have your hotkeys right over here. It makes everything super easy and really close, so you don't have to hold shift and change all the effects and all the settings. And while I was actually mixing on this thing, it made me actually use the stems more, maybe use the sampler more. It helped me get a little more creative when it came to my mix. But that's all I got for you guys in this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one.